Good evening, Ron Graham, the Net Worth Nation, coming to you tonight with the annuity playbook. And I really want to get into this one because it has a plethora of options for everyone who's interested in beefing up, shoring up, and stabilizing their financial playbook. And so, why I put this in a category of misunderstood is because one, I did. I remember when I first started to look into these types of products, I really didn't understand the benefits and the abilities and the power that annuities had. And so, shame on me, but it won't be shame on you because I'm going to go into some of the key reasons why someone would choose an annuity. And let's start out by really going into what actually is an annuity. So, an annuity is an insurance contract issued and distributed by the financial institutions with the intention of paying out invested funds in a fixed income stream in the future. So, that is the short story of the annuity and what it is. And over the next few minutes, we'll kind of go into some of the strategic planning that should go behind whether or not you decide is an annuity right for you. Now, I have a lot of questions out there where people are trying to determine what they would do if they came across a large sum of money. So this kind of goes out to some of the people who may have had lump sum money in a 401k and they may not be as happy with the performance of that 401k, or some people coming to the end of the retirement cycle and they're deciding or they're trying to calculate or figure out what are they going to do with this money when they get it. Now, another reason why people have been becoming smarter is because we are realizing that lots of people are starting to outlive the plan that they had for original retirement. What does that mean? I think we all know what that means. A lot of us are absolutely living a whole lot longer. And so that brings to light that there's got to be a better way to protect ourselves against those uncertainties of the future. So, what reason would you buy an annuity? So let's just go right into it. I mean, one, you may not be comfortable with taking too many risks. If you've recently come out of the stock world or the 401k world, like a lot of us are starting to come out of, we have looked over past performances and we've gotten a little, little shaky, little gun shy, with that product. And it's understandable. There's been some really tough performances. Another reason why someone would buy one is if they're strategically looking to protect large sums of money. Like they don't want to get hammered with the types of taxes that come from lump sum payouts. And so they're trying to figure out a way to avoid that and kind of roll that down into the future. There's also where people are very concerned about potential mismanagement, potential mistakes that could potentially be made. And so they may want to put money in a place where they can't really screw it up, for lack of better terminology, right? Where it's given to them over an extended period of time rather than, taking on this large sum of money and maybe doing something that maybe down the line they may regret. And then last but not least, for those coming out of the retirement session, realizing, I may have some social security, I may or may not have a pension, I have this 401k, and you start doing the mathematics and you divide that, 401k by the years of your life expectancy, and you realize that the 401k does not seem to cover that length of time. And so now you've got this light bulb that's going off in your head, and you're saying, I got to figure something out. So, an annuity is for those types of reasons. Now, on that note, let's look at some of the things that most people are familiar with when they say, where should I put my lump sum money? So, On the left side, we obviously know about stocks. We are very familiar with mutual funds, variable annuities, and bonds. And so the reason why we are familiar with these things is because a lot of us just recently came out of it. But as you notice, there is a higher loss ratio, good growth ratio in stocks, but also a good loss ratio. This particular blueprint does not necessarily work for people who have put money away, let's say for like a retirement. Because in this situation, when you retire, you don't control when the market is up and when the market is down. When your retirement number is called, you retire. And so where that challenges of that is that because you don't control that, sometimes you may even have to prolong retirement and maybe try to recoup some of the money that was lost. Now on the right side, you see the no risk cash. I mean, unless somebody knows your stash, it's pretty safe. CDs, pretty safe. Fixed annuities, pretty safe. So notice on this side of the page, these products with least risk because they don't really suffer the types of loss ratios that these guys do. But if you look at these guys, cash CDs, fixed annuities, there's that annuity again, index annuities, and index universal life, you're noticing that these are growth products on the right side that don't suffer the same losses. So, what's my point? If you're looking towards the retirement strategies, you're going to look at the strategies on the right side of my page. Then, once you get them on the right side of the page, meaning these mitigate, they've reduced loss, now you have to look at on the right side of my page, which products are going to give me the most bang for the buck. And if you look down at the far end here, you notice that you have two of my absolute favorites, the index annuity and the index universal life. So this is how this whole puzzle fits together. So hopefully this is the type of vision that you need to see when you're trying to figure out, okay, what do I do with my money? Again, if you noticed on the previous slide, we did show a little bit of these annuities. You see it here, you see it here, here, and here. So let's look at what that looks like. So you have fixed annuity, indexed annuity, and variable annuity. The fixed index annuity is the least amount of risk. Least amount of risk, not as much money on the come in, but least amount of risk. So it's solid. And this is where most people new to the annuity world, they kind of dibble over here. Then you have that index annuity, which pays based on the value of an external index. So it's kind of got that motivation and that control by what's going on in the S&P 500. And that's kind of like a little bit in the middle there. Not bad. Not bad at all. I mean, you're going to make some money, but you're also going to not lose your shirt, right? As they say, lose your shirt and your underwear in the process, right? So it's a little bit more flexibility income wise and strategic as far as losses. And of course, you have your variable annuities, which is a little bit more aggressive. But again, all of these products can be structured with floors. And for those that don't know what a floor is, just pay attention to this line. Notice these products on the left don't go below the floor. So, what exactly am I saying? Which one? You guys, you tell me. So you realize where your risk tolerance is, and that's how you make these types of decisions. Now, let me give you a little more insight here. And what exactly do I mean by the power of indexing? So, those index annuities and those fixed index products absolutely have the ability to get benefits from the S&P 500. The key aspect is, and I know this, it may be hard to believe, but it doesn't lose money in a sense of stock market loss. It just doesn't make money. So, case in point, if you look at this line here, this loss year from 01, all the way down to '02, this person here, while they didn't make anything, They didn't lose anything. And you probably say, well, why is that so good? Well, it's very good because notice when the lines start to reproduce themselves and go back up, the starting point for this person is 71,000. The starting point for this person is 108. So that is the power of the caps and the floors. Now, again, on the other side of that coin, this the line may not jump all the way up like this line would, but at the same time, it's a steady Freddy line that offsets the losses. So again, just to get the picture, we said, why would somebody buy an annuity? Remember, we talked about somebody that wants to make sure that they don't do anything foolish with their income, that they can put it in a situation, offset some taxes, offset some foolish mistakes, take a large sum, lump sum of it, protect it from the tax guy, and then notice how down the line they're given a streamline of income all the way up until the time that person dies. So again, who would use something like this? Well, someone who recognizes that what they've done thus far in retirement might not be enough. So a lot of my young retirees that come out, preferably my law enforcement people that are coming out early, this is something that you absolutely want to look at because you realize that you may not need the money right away because of the fact that you're still relatively young enough to go out there and maybe do something else for a few more years. So, again, just to get it down to a science, choose a variable annuity of some sort, allocate money to an investment portfolio. Remember, we said that the monies go to some kind of stocks and bonds. So we kind of allocate that. We might put some money over here, put some money over here. You guys are familiar with that if you've seen what happens with the mutual funds. Same thing if you go in and you allocate different funds to different indexes. You adjust it, and then when the time thereof comes, you receive your payout. So very similar. It's just that again with the annuity, you're agreeing that there's not going to be the money will not be touched for an extended period of time, and that's like 5 years, uh, minimum of 5 years. They have some for three, some that you can get right away. But if you're looking at it from an income stream to capitalize on somewhere down the line in the future, then this is something that you would do. Now, and before I let you go to the next slide, this particular incident actually happened for a very famous basketball player by the name of Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson unfortunately went broke in his late 30s, and he was actually bankrupt. And a good friend of his strategically built him a product like this. And when Allen Iverson turned 50, which actually was this year, by the way, coincidentally, he actually now will collect money, a large sum of money that he should have, for the rest of his life. I think it's like $50 million. And of course, he's a whole lot wiser than he was back in his 20s and 30s. Now, you're very familiar with all these guys: Mega Millions, Powerball, the New York Lottery, $1,000 for the rest of your life, a week for the rest of your life. A lot of you guys are very familiar with those toys and those tools. And believe it or not, these are all nothing more than annuities. That's right. These are annuities. So, why would you buy an annuity? Well, I think it's plain to see if you're looking for income stream to take you through the lean years of life and you're not pleased or satisfied with what has been happening to this point with your retirement product, then you would definitely look at an annuity. Again, if you also have a large sum of money that you're trying to strategically keep out of the hands of the tax brokers, then you would also look to put your money in an annuity and push it down the line. Now, again, why do we not encourage the CDs and the banks? It's because unfortunately they only give you about this much, a little bit of that. So annuities have been around us basically our whole entire lives. Most of us didn't really just realize what they were. I got another story before I let you go, and I want to show you something. Everybody knows who this guy is, and if you don't, you just last 20 years of your life must have been a blur. But Allen Iverson, one of arguably the most greatest basketball players that ever lace up some tennis shoes here, um, in 2010 actually declared bankruptcy. A lot of people may or may not know this, but he did. And so blew through over $200 million. I mean, this guy, his story's not hard to Google up. Uh, but here's the thing: the annuity, yeah, the annuity saved the day for this gentleman. How do we know that? In Iverson's situation, on his 55th birthday, he's going to receive $32 million thanks to a lifetime Reebok deal that he had. So what Reebok did was, way back then, they took $5 million and they put it in an annuity, and nobody touched it for the last 25 years or so, 20, 25, 30 years, whatever the case is. And so what happened is, through the power of indexing annuities, that money absolutely grew by leaps and bounds. So what I want to do real quick is I'm going to take you into a quick display of what a real life annuity could look like going forward. All right. So what we wanted to do was, like I said, you're talking about somebody who's about 55, looking, you know, to do something else, got about $150,000, and they really don't necessarily feel as confident with what they have so far, as far as retirement. I mean, they like their retirement, it's decent, but they're being realistic. They know inflation and they know things are going on. So they're going to kind of say, I'm willing to kick the can down the road for 5 years, a minimum of at least 5 years. They're willing to kick the can down the road. And realistically speaking, they probably would like to do it for 10 years, because at 55, they know they could probably get into something else, a second occupation, something fun, something enjoyable. Who knows? Maybe they do Uber, maybe they do, what do you call that? What's the travel consultants? Things like that, where you make a decent living and you're not really beat up. And so you may say, 55, still kind of young. There's a lot of mileage left on my treads, on my tires, on my treads. So what am I saying? Let's look at something like that and see what an annuity could do. So we went ahead and put the $100,000 in. They're going to take the 50,000 and hold on to that, pay off some bills, credit cards, and all that other stuff. And they're going to kind of try to see if they can take this 100 and strategize it. And because they have a second income now, they're going to put $100 in a month to make it a little bit even more interesting. And as we discussed earlier with the S&P 500, they're going to play around a little bit over here and play around with these caps, and move these numbers around and see how they look, just like they did with their 401k. And then they're going to come down and look at these guaranteed lifetime income riders, and they're going to say, yeah, we want some money, but we want some more money on top of it. So when we start going through our retirement, we should be okay. Remember, I mentioned that in the 401k universe, you do understand that when you take that money out, you have to recognize that even if you space it out over a period of time, it's not built to still last forever. There's still a missing step to the money you take out of the 401k. So if you want to take the money out of the 401k, you don't want to get slammed. This is an absolute game changer of what we're showing you here. So again, you take it, you move it over here, and you say, now I can continue to protect it after retirement years. So now you kind of get an idea of what this money looks like. So from here, you see you're putting your $100 in a month. That's going on over here. 56 to the age of 65. That's your 10-year run. And then at that point, you decide you're not going to fund the money any longer. And so what you've done, whether you recognize it or not, and these interest percentages, they vary. But again, this is based on historical data and historical facts. What you've done is you've created a pocket that allows you to pay yourself $25,000 a year, literally, for the rest of your life. Now, why is that such a plus? Well, if you take $100,000 that you started with, you know, let's be realistic. That's not going to pay you $25,000 a year. And let's just say, for the sake of it, you say, well, hey, man, I've been putting $100 of my hard earned money in still. And let's be realistic. I like that. So that's $1,200 you've been putting in this account for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, right? So $1,200. Let me make sure 9 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. 1,200 times 9. That's $10,000. So again, if you want to make sense of it, that's 100,000 that you put in there. Look at that. Automatically, that 100,000, you got interest on it, but that's 100,000. So basically 110,800, and that's paying you $25,000 a year for the rest of your life. Now you might say, what is so big about that? Well, let's do the math. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? 11, 12. So we're going to say $25,000. It's like, why did he say 12? If you live 12 years, you didn't got paid 300 grand, right? So what is this doing? This is taking the edge off of people who are very concerned about running through their retirement income. And basically what you've basically done is you've bought yourself a second pension. You've absolutely bought yourself a second pension. And this is why someone would purchase an annuity. I hope this helps. I hope this makes sense. And if it doesn't, just get on the calendar. We can definitely go through this more personable to you, because we really need to understand what your specific needs are as it relates to the Fit Select product. Ron Graham, Net Worth Nation. Hope to talk to you soon. Stay well.